Hi, this is Munson from Munson Music, and we're talking about how you can play a song by Elvis Presley called A Mess of Blues. And we're going to start out kind of with that piano intro, actually, and these are some licks that you may want to throw in where you can play open G, second fret on the G, and then go to fourth fret on the D string for kind of a slide, and then we go to third fret on the A string, and then we go third fret on the D string, it's kind of a tag to that, and then go to first fret on the D string and kind of do a slide into 2. So you got 0, 2, 4, 5, 3, 3, 1, 2, slide, and then we go to 4 on the D, open G, and then third fret on the A, and then third fret on the D, and then do that 1, 2 slide again on the D string. 1, 2. So 0, 2, 4, 5, 3, 3, 1, 2, 4, 0, 3, 3, 1, 2. And then the bass line through that part is actually really cool and a very typical cliche type of cool bluesy bass line. If you wanted to kind of follow that too, that would be a cool way to intro the tune too, where you play third fret on the A string twice, and then second fret on the D string twice, and then open G twice, and then we go to the D string and go 3 to 2. So we're playing a C, C, E, E, G, G, F, E, C, C, E, E, G, G, F, E. Now the chords that would back up that intro though would all be around a C major chord. Let me play C major. First finger goes to the B string on the first fret, second finger goes to the D string on the second fret, and third finger goes to the A string on the third fret. And if you strum all those together, that sounds a C major chord and it sounds really happy. And a lot of times with a song like this though, to kind of fill up time and kind of support my voice, I like using some things called strum patterns. One of my favorite strum patterns for a 4/4 like this is down, down, up, up, down, up. So we took the C and just tried that a lot. You have down, down, up, down, up, C, down, up, down, up, C, down, up, down, up, C, down, up, down, up. What I'm actually kind of doing with that strum pattern actually is doing something called swinging it. And what swinging it is where you're kind of taking the downs and making them longs, and the ups are kind of short. So you may want to try that a little bit, just kind of with down ups, kind of thinking long shorts. Long, short, long, short, long, short, long, short, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. So by swinging the pattern, actually, you can kind of make it sound a little bit more bluesy. But you could kind of work it off the down, down, up, down. Ways you can kind of work it. And then from there we go into our verse part, and we start on C major, and we're doing more C, and we're actually end up doing 4 C's. And then from the C we're going to be going to an F major chord. We'll talk about an easy substitute for this, but if you know the bar F major, you do your first finger across the entire first fret, second finger on the G string second fret, third finger on the A string third fret, and the pinky on the D string third fret. And if you strum all those together, that sounds like F major bar chord, and it sounds really happy. But a good substitute for that a lot of times is something called F major 7. So when you're starting out, this could be a good substitute. Is putting first finger on the B string first fret, second finger on the G string second fret, and third finger on the D string second fret. And you might notice that that looks a lot like C major actually. All you have to do is kind of move 2 and 3 kind of from the A and D to the D and G. And that's called F major 7. It sounds really groovy. And then from the F, we're going to be going to a G major chord. And the way you play G major, first finger goes to the A string on the second fret, second finger goes to the low E string on the third fret, and the third finger goes to the high E string on the third fret. And if you strum all those together, that sounds a G major chord. And at the end of our verses, we're going to be going from G to an F, and then going to a C. And then we could stay on a C chord actually at the very end of our verse. There's this thing in blues called a turnaround, where sometimes you may want to kind of substitute in a G chord at the end, actually kind of send you back to the C. So if we tried out that verse with our strum pattern and kind of thought of that last change as kind of that G, F, and then C, and then G, then we'd have C with a down, down, up, down, C, down, down, up, down, C, down, down, up, down, C, down, down, up, down, up, F, 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 down, down, up, down, G, down, down, up, down, up, F, down, down, up, down, C, down, down, up, down, G, down, down, up, down. Now randomly on that last G, what can also sound really good and actually gets used later on is to kind of feel triplets on that G. And this is a little weird, but on the G, what a triplet is where you're kind of feeling 3 on a foot tap. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. You can do this with down up, and then you kind of end up with a down up, down up, down up, down up, down up, down up. You're feeling it in 3. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. down, down, up, down, and G triplet, 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 to kind of send you back into the verse. So kind of a cool little triplet idea there. But then from there we're going back into our verse form. Now something else you may want to think about adding to the song though to make it sound even more bluesy is things called dominant 7 chords, which sound nasty, and I love them. And so on the C chord, what you could do is kind of take the pinky and go to the G string on the 3rd fret while you're holding the C chord. So now I've got first finger on the B string, 1st fret, second finger on the D string, 2nd, third finger on the A string, 3rd, just like the C chord. But then I got the pinky on the G string on the 3rd fret, and that sounds a C7 chord, or C dominant 7 chord. It sounds really nasty. It has some bite to it. And then on the F, instead of doing just a regular F or F major 7, you can do an F dominant 7. This could be a little tricky if you're just starting out, because you end up doing the 1st fret bar, 2nd finger on the G string, 2nd fret, and 3rd finger on the A string on the 3rd fret. So it's just like the F major, but you're lifting off the pinky, and that sounds an F dominant 7. It sounds really, really nasty. And then from the F7, we could go to a G7 or a G dominant 7. And one way to play that, actually there's a couple ways to play it. You could take the F7 shape that we're on right now and slide it over 2 frets to make it a 3rd fret bar and use that same shape for a G7. Or you could use a root position G7, where you do first finger on the high E string, 1st fret, second finger on the A string, 2nd fret, third finger on the A string, the E string, 3rd fret. And that sounds a G dominant 7 chord. So I got 1 on the high E, 2nd on the A, 3rd finger on the low E string on the 3rd. You may notice that the fingers actually are kind of still lined up 1st fret, 2nd fret, 3rd fret, just like the C and the F major 7. So that might be kind of a cool way to kind of work it too, is kind of working the C to the F major 7 and then working the G7. And that may be a little bit easier for your fingering if you're just starting out. But if we tried that next verse kind of with our dominant 7 chords, we'd have C7 with down, down, up, down, C down, down, up, down, C down, down, up, down, C down, down, up, down, F7 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 down, down, up, down, G7 down, down, up, down, F7 down, down, up, down, C7 down, down, up, down. And on the last verse, or the next verse actually, instead of doing the turnaround G, we actually stay on the C chord or the C7 chord, and that leads us into our bridge part. Now something else I would think about adding to the song though is bass notes, and a lot of times on that first down of the down, down, up, down, you could throw in a bass note for the chord. So on the C or the C7, you could do the A string for your bass and kind of keep your down, up, down. So you got C with an A bass, down, up, down, C with an A bass, down, up, down. Now on the F major 7, you have the D for your bass. So D bass, down, up, down. And on the F7 bar and the F major bar, you have the low E string for your bass. And then on the G chords, you'd have the low E string for your bass. So we tried that second verse actually with our bass notes. We'd have C with an A bass, down, up, down, C with an A bass, down, down, C with an A bass, down, down, C with an A bass, down, down, F with low E 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 bass, down, down, G with low E bass, down, down, F with low E bass, down, down, C with an A bass, down, down, and randomly on that C, that last C of the verse, you may want to try and throw in your triplets to kind of get a lot of energy to run into our bridge part. And then on our bridge part, we start on the F, and then we do another F, and then we go to C, and then we do another C, and then we go back to F, and then we do another F, and then we do kind of a big hit on a G chord where you may want to do kind of a down and kill it, kind of with the string. So I'm kind of doing a down and kind of putting my right hand down on top of the strings to kind of kill it. And then right after that, actually, after that kill it, there's kind of this big build up on G, and in the drum part, actually, it kind of is revolving around the triplets. So what I would think about doing at the very end is kind of a D down, kill it, and then kind of a G with triplet, 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 to send you back into the verse part. So if we tried our bridge that way, and we could even do that with just the down, down, up, and we have F with down, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, C down, down, up, down, C7, down, up, down, up, F down, down, up, down, up, F down, down, up, down, G down, kill it, and then triplet, 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 triplet. Or you could do that with the bass notes. Then you have F with the bass, down, up, down, F with the bass, down, down, C with an A bass, down, down, C with an A bass, down, down, F with the low E bass, down, down, F with the low E G triplet, 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 triplet. And then we'd be going back into our verse part. Now through that part though, there's some really cool little lead guitar parts actually. And if you wanted to kind of add these in, you could start on the high on the 8th fret. And you'll kind of hear where that kind of gets repeated actually, almost like a little swing thing. And you may have to listen to the recording actually to kind of play around with the rhythm on that. But then the other note that kind of gets used is going to 11th fret on the high E string. And sometimes that kind of gets bent. So I'm kind of playing the note and pressing up and into the guitar at the same time to kind of bend the string. And then you kind of back to that 8. So you got 8, 8, 8, 8, 8, 8, 8, 8, 8, 11 bend, 8, 8, 8, 8. That kind of is in the background through that part. Now those notes actually are part of a bigger scale actually called a C minor pentatonic scale, which normally gets used to solo over C blues, which is what the song is. And so if you wanted to kind of play around with just lead parts or jamming with the tune, this would be kind of a cool scale. And you start on the low E string on the 8th fret, and that's a C note, and then you go to 11th fret on the low E string for an E flat note, and then we go to 8th fret on the A string for an F note, and then we play 10th fret on the A string for a G note, and then we take the first finger and go to the 8th fret on the D string for a B flat note, and then we go back to the 10 on the D string for a C note, and then we got the 8th fret on the G string for a E flat note, and then we got 10th fret on the G string for a F note, and then we got 8th fret on the B string for a G note, and then 11th fret on the B string for a B flat note, and then high E on that 8th fret we were playing for the lead, and then 11 for the E flat. So you're going 8, 11, 8, 10, 8, 10, 8, 10, 8, 11, 8, 11, fret-wise, from the low E string to the high E string. So there are lots of lead licks that you could throw in. You could do hammer-ons, if you're familiar with hammer-ons, where you kind of play the first note and put your finger down for the second note. Or you could reverse that and kind of do pull-offs back to kind of the other finger of the pattern. Or you could work slides, is one of my favorite licks, is kind of playing the note and kind of pressing down enough to get the note to slide to the next note of the pattern. So you may want to play around with slides, and you could do those up or you could do those down. Something else that might be kind of cool is working bends, actually, and that's kind of in the recording, is that bend. So you may want to take each note and just kind of try doing bends. This kind of basic lead overview. But then what you could do is you could kind of use that as your alphabet and kind of see what you can say with it. So that might be kind of a cool thing to kind of try through the tune. And then from there we'll be going back into our verse. Now one other thing I would think about though is because of the bluesy nature of the tune, actually there's some really cool licks that we could work around. This is probably easier looking around from the F7 actually, although this is the hardest place to do it, is while you're doing that F7, if you're doing that bar, you can actually kind of get your pinky to go all the way to the 5th fret on the A string, and if we kind of took our strum and made it just a down up thing, we could almost kind of get like a bluesy lick going on from the F7. And that same lick idea, if you're pinky impaired, and actually this is weird, actually a lot of times higher head angle will help with this, and you can kind of put your thumb a little bit more to your right, like closer to the pinky, and sometimes that can kind of help to kind of get the pinky to go all the way over to kind of get that whole step, kind of skipping a fret in between, which is weird. So for the F, you could kind of work that 1st fret with that blues lick. You could work the G from 3rd fret with that blues lick, and the C, if you went all the way to 8th fret and use that same shape, you can use that same lick for that. So if we tried that lick through, and what I'm doing is kind of down up with kind of the chord shape, and then taking the pinky to add it on the A string and going back down. So it's almost like finger-wise, I'm kind of getting the sound from my 3rd finger on the A string and then the pinky on the A string to kind of get that lick. So if we tried that with, next verse with our licks, we'd have C7, C, 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 so it's almost like you're getting the bass line too. Back to 8th fret for C, C. You could even throw in those triplets actually on the C chord to lead back into the bridge part. And we could even try those licks through the bridge. We'd have the up to 8th fret for C. This is much easier on electric. That's my display bar. C, and then we're back. into our verse part. So we try that through our verse. For our last verse, we have the C. Into our last part, and at the very end actually we have this cool little tag that's kind of like the last 4 bars of our verse. So we start out on a G, and then we go to an F, and then we go to a C, and then we do another C, and then we go back to G, and then we do an F, and then we do another C, and at the very end it's almost like this stop time thing where you go kind of down, down, up, down on the C, and you can even kind of throw in the kill it idea. So we did that with our down, down, up, down, up. We'd have G with a down, down, up, down, left, down, down, up, down, C, down, down, up, down, C, down, down, up, down, G, down, down, up, down, left, down, down, up, down, C, down, down, up, down, C, down, down, up, down. Or if we did that with our bass notes, we'd have G with a bass, down, up, down, F bass, down, down, C with an A bass, down, down, C with an A bass, down, down, G with low E bass, down, down, F with a bass, down, down, C with an A bass, down, down, C bass, down, kill it. Or we could do it with those licks, and we have G, F, C, C, G, the kill it thing. But that's the basics of how you can strum through a mess of blues by Elvis Presley. So good luck!